The film begins in 1946 in Australia. At night, we see a van and a car driving down a deserted road. Inside the van are several sealed crates bearing a bank's logo, clearly stolen goods being transported illegally. The group includes a ruthless gangster named Dylan Maddock and his three associates, Yannisik, his right-hand man, and Shaw Cullen and Dwight Lewis. Something goes wrong during the journey. Dwight loses control of the van, causing it to plunge into a nearby river. The water is very deep, and the van sinks to the bottom with all the valuable cargo. Shaw and Dwight manage to swim to safety, but Dylan is furious. The crates contain something extremely valuable. In a fit of rage, Dylan immediately kills Dwight. A terrified Shaw suggests that the van could be retrieved with a crane, but Dylan refuses, saying that heavy machinery would attract too much attention. He decides he needs a professional diving team, experts who can work discreetly and retrieve the goods without anyone knowing. For now, Dylan spares Shaw's life. We then meet a small diving company run by just 3 people: Clara Bennett, who loves diving, Jimmy, a skilled diver, and their boss, Arnie Morgan, who has become an alcoholic. The war has just ended, and life is tough. Business is slow, and Arnie may have to sell everything to pay off his debts. One afternoon, Clara and Jimmy are testing a new diving suit while Arnie is passed out drunk. Clara wakes him and tries to cheer him up, but Arnie feels completely broken. He hasn't had any decent work for months and recently lost a major bridge project, yet Clara assures him that things will get better. That same day, Dylan Maddock and his partner Janis Wojcik arrive and demand to speak only to the boss. Their behavior clearly indicates they are involved in something illegal. Dylan is a gangster with racist, misogynistic views and a cruel nature. When he meets Arnie, it becomes clear that both men have served in the military. Arnie served in the Navy. After a brief conversation, Dylan offers him a specific job and tells him about a van, but refuses to reveal what's inside. He then gives him a large sum of money as an advance and promises the rest later. Out of desperation, Arnie accepts the job. Clara feels fear and suspicion about this work. Dylan taunts Clara for being a woman and Jimmy for being indigenous. Arnie defends his team. Clara and Jimmy dive in, wearing old, heavy, and dangerous diving suits. They find the van lying at an angle. Suddenly, a shark attacks Clara and breaks her oxygen hose. Jimmy saves Clara's life just in time. A shark's tooth is found lodged in her helmet. It turns out to be a bull shark, which can live in both fresh and salt water. Dylan still doesn't believe it and continues to be angry with Arnie's team until Arnie announces that no one will dive again as long as the shark is there. Now Dylan wants a shark hunter, just like Quint from the movie Jaws, and he coldly states that the cost will be deducted from Arnie's wages. After he leaves, Arnie praises Jimmy for saving Clara's life and asks him if he saw anything inside the van. Jimmy says no, but they'll find out tomorrow. Arnie tells them to keep it a secret. Later, he goes to see Clara, who apologizes for failing, but Arnie reassures her that surviving is the most important thing. Meanwhile, Dylan and Giannis return and announce that a fisherman will arrive in the morning to deal with the shark. That night, Dylan asks Clara why she risked her life for this job. She replies that she loves the sea and Arnie gave her a chance when no one else would. When she asks about his work, he refuses to answer, making it clear that he's involved in something illegal. Clara talks to Arnie and asks him to quit this job. Jimmy agrees, but Arnie says they can't because they have no other work. The next morning, before the fisherman arrives, a police officer shows up. Dylan's men panic, but Dylan remains calm and lies that Sean was driving and no one was injured, so no report was filed. He also mentions the shark attack, and the police officer accepts his story and leaves. A little later, a fisherman named Bob arrives, who is very talkative and confident. He promises to kill the shark. Jimmy goes with him on the boat, and Dylan forces Sean to go too. Bob prepares the bait, and soon sharks begin circling around them. Jimmy fires his gun, but the bullets slow down in the water and have no effect. A shark hits the boat, throwing everyone into the river. Jimmy and Sean manage to climb back onto the boat, but Bob is killed right before their eyes. Terrified, Jimmy and Sean barely make it back to the riverbank alive. After Bob's death, everyone is scared, except for Dylan, who laughs and makes jokes. This angers Clara, and Arnie insists that everything be reported to the police. Dylan stops him, but Arnie throws his money back at him and tells him he won't work for him anymore. In anger, Dylan and Giannis pull out guns and threaten to kill them for not completing the job. It becomes clear that there is something illegal in the crates, which is why they want them recovered. Arnie reluctantly agrees. He asks what Dylan plans to do with them afterward. Dylan lies, saying he will let them go once the job is done. The team resumes work, building a wooden sled to drag the boxes a short distance from the water. They also throw bait into the water to distract the sharks so they can complete their task. When everything is ready, Arnie Arnie decides to dive himself because he doesn't want to put Clara's life in danger again. He says that they are all in this mess because of him, and he will be the one to end it. Shortly after, Giannis, watching the fake fish, announces that a shark has been caught in the net. It's the perfect time to dive. Arnie and Jimmy quickly descend and reach the submerged van. Ernie opens the trunk, revealing sealed boxes, and they begin loading them onto a sled to pull them up. They work quickly, but the weight is too much, so Jimmy suggests removing some of the boxes. Meanwhile, Giannis is terrified to learn that the shark has escaped from the fake shark enclosure. Clara warns the divers over the radio to be careful and signals Sean to start pulling the sled up. As Sean pulls the boxes, Clara tells Ernie and Jimmy to hide inside the van, knowing the shark could return at any moment. They hide inside the van to escape the shark, but then trouble strikes again when the sled gets stuck. They have to swim out and manage to free it, but then the shark attacks again, severely biting Ernie's arm. Jimmy wounds it with a spear and frees himself, but the shark returns and attacks Ernie once more. Clara pulls them up while Sean brings the sled to the riverbank. When Dylan sees the boxes, he is thrilled. They contain pure gold. Meanwhile, Clara and Jimmy are holding the injured Ernie. Clara begs him to take Ernie to the hospital, but Dylan doesn't care. To him, Ernie's life is worthless. A short time later, Ernie dies in Clara's arms. Grief turns to anger, and Jimmy grabs a knife and attacks Dylan's gang. But they have guns, so Clara stops him. Giannis taunts him, throwing down his gun and challenging him with a knife. Jimmy throws his knife, which strikes Giannis in the shoulder. In a fit of rage, Dylan picks up a gun to shoot, but Clara stops him, reminding him that they are still needed because some boxes are still underwater. Dylan lowers the gun, knowing Clara is right. However, his greed makes it clear that once the job is done, he will kill them. Blinded by greed, Dylan angrily beats Jimmy severely and then locks them both inside a tent for the night. The next morning, they are forced to retrieve the remaining gold boxes. Dylan orders Clara to dive, despite Jimmy's protests, which are ignored. Clara puts on the diving suit again and descends once more. Working quickly, she loads the last box onto the sled. While the others are pulling the van up, Clara searches the van and finds a hidden gun under the driver's seat, which she secretly keeps. But before she can get out, the shark returns and attacks the van. Clara quickly traps it inside, closes the doors, and escapes just in time. When the boxes reach the surface, Jimmy helps Clara out. She shows him the gun she found and hides it for the right moment. With the gold recovered, Dylan's work is done, and it's time to eliminate the witnesses. He tells his men that they will chain them up and drown them in the river. First, he orders them to dispose of Arnie's body, but before they can do anything, the police officer from earlier arrives. Seeing Arnie's body, he becomes suspicious. Suddenly, Sean shoots him from behind, and chaos erupts. Jimmy attacks Giannis. Despite being wounded, Officer Sean manages to shoot and kill one of the men, but before he can fire again, Dylan shoots him. At that moment, Clara pulls out her hidden gun and fires, wounding Dylan's hand and causing him to drop his weapon. Dylan, bleeding and enraged, hides behind the van. Clara's attention is drawn to Jimmy, who is fighting with Giannis. Before Giannis can kill him, Clara shoots him, but he is still alive, and she runs out of bullets. Giannis attacks Jimmy again and tries to drown him, but Clara hits him over the head with his heavy diving helmet, knocking him unconscious and causing him to fall into the water. Meanwhile, Dylan retrieves another gun from the car. At the same time, the shark breaks free from the trapped van. When Clara sees Dylan approaching with the gun, she yells at Jimmy to jump into the river. She is unaware that the shark has already been released. They run, dodging bullets as Dylan fires indiscriminately. He pursues them in a boat, continuing to shoot. Cleverly, Clara rocks the boat, causing Dylan to lose his balance and fall into the water. Jimmy manages to get out, but Clara grabs Dylan's leg and tries to pull him down. Just then, Jimmy sees the shark approaching and yells at her to get out of the water. Clara reaches the riverbank and picks up a gun, aiming it at Dylan. Dylan taunts her, calling her a coward who can't pull the trigger. Clara hesitates, but she doesn't need to fire. In a sudden, terrifying moment, the shark attacks and devours Dylan, ending his reign of terror. After some time, Clara and Jimmy return to their old lives. They handed over all the recovered gold to the authorities, finally bringing an end to the nightmare beneath the river. One day, two men came to visit Clara and Jimmy. One of them was Arnie's lawyer, who informed them that Arnie had left a will stating that all of his property would go to Jimmy after his death. In addition, the bank awarded them a reward of 2,500 Australian dollars for returning the stolen gold to the authorities. With this money, they could restart their diving business, and the film ends with this moment of hope.